So those of you who know me will know that I normally give presentations about paid search, or automation, or something marketing specific. And this is a very different presentation for me. Back up in Leeds, I'm part of an organisation called She's Digital, tied to what we do at Epiphany, but its aim is to try and showcase the amazing roles available for women in our industry, to highlight role models, to help break down barriers, help women build networks, and ultimately to get more women into technology, because as you all know, there is a gender gap, and it's a massive, massive problem. Particularly as we move to a world where we're looking at more automation, more algorithms, and we need a group of people who can build those things to represent the people that they're going to be serving, essentially. So society sucks at getting women and girls into tech. And we all know about the obvious reasons: discrimination in HR, the pipeline problem, the fact that girls and women don't usually get encouraged to study the right subjects at school. But I believe there's also a different reason, something that's more subversive than the fact that women still take on the majority of childcare duties or duties around the home. There's a great TED Talk, if any of you have seen this, it's one of my favourite TED Talks, probably the last couple of years, by Reshma Saljani, who gave a talk about teaching girls bravery rather than perfection. And she highlighted in this talk a real problem in that as a society we encourage boys and girls very differently. The fact that we have the word tomboy to describe girls who don't behave how they're expected indicates this. We tell boys to climb trees, break things, pull things apart and put them back together. But in contrast, we tell girls to smile, to follow instructions, in short, to be perfect. This then leads into problems in the workplace. It's quite well known that women usually will only apply for jobs if they feel that they meet 100% of the required specification. Men will apply if they only meet 60. So this has huge implications for how we draft our job specs anyway, but it shows that we have this problem with failure among women, this sense of having to be perfect. In the TED Talk, she talked about this study run by a woman called Carol Dweck in the 1980s, where she took boys and girls of the same age of similar ability and gave them some difficult problems to solve. And even though girls are outperforming boys in every subject at this age, whereas the girls should have been energised by the difficulty of the task and their innate ability, they were actually really deflated and downcast by not being able to solve the problems immediately, whereas the boys found this energising and enjoyed the challenge. Whereas the boys would come to them and say, oh, there's something wrong with this problem, the girls would come to her and say, there's something wrong with me. Even by the age of 6, girls see themselves as less talented than boys. At 6 years old, even though again, they're outperforming boys in subjects at this stage, including maths and science. If you ask girls to draw a doctor, a scientist, an astronaut, chances are 90% of the time, unless they have a figure to look up to in their life, they draw a man. Why? Ultimately, women are afraid of failure. We've been told that we need to be perfect, and as a result, we're scared of trialling with anything but 100% chance of success. We see this borne out in the stats. Only 70% of startups are run by women. There are only 7 female CEOs in the FTSE 100. There are more men called Dave in the FTSE 100 than there are women. There are 8 Daves. There are different standards for women. You usually only see women as CEOs in companies often that are failing. Indra Nooyi at PepsiCo being an exception, although she's to step down soon. But you think about Carol Bartz and Marissa Mayer going into Yahoo, and the flack they receive for them not being able to turn those companies around, and that being used as proof that women don't make good CEOs. Even though the evidence usually shows the opposite, that companies run by women do better and are more profitable. This is broken, obviously, and it needs to change. So in April, as part of Leeds Digital Festival, we did a talk. We collaborated with a company called Hey, and we did She Does Hey. And there were 6 of us who told our stories about failure, with the theme of the evening being failure is an option. And we don't want to glamorise failure, but we wanted to give people the confidence to fail, to not be scared of what happens to you if you do fail. So, with the aim of hopefully encouraging some of you here today who might be scared of failure, I'm going to tell you a little bit of my story, because there have been many fails, some of them quite epic. And I'm hoping you'll enjoy a little bit of this before we then go on to talk about how you can improve your confidence and hopefully get over that fear. So, you could say I failed from birth. I was supposed to be born a boy, obviously, wasn't, and I arrived a month early, today. So this meant that when I arrived, my parents had no idea what to call me. They had the names Daniel and Alexander picked out, obviously, not too suitable for a girl, and so they chose Arianne from a perfume bottle, and Storm based on the weather outside the window. As the third of 4 girls, the other 3 of which have really normal names, I feel quite hard done by this. They're called like Natalie and Abigail and Emma and really regular names, and I get Arianne and Storm. And my family wonder why we don't have the best relationship. It's a shame because as a kid, I mean, my hair took so long to come in, I could have passed for a boy quite easily. Fail number 1. When I then started to go to school was a tricky one because I enjoyed school, I was good at every subject, I quite enjoyed it, and potentially because of that, I had no friends. I was bullied, was socially very awkward, found things difficult both at school and at home. And I had no idea what I wanted to do with my career, with having no one favourite thing I wanted to do. It could be that I wanted to be a paleontologist, an archaeologist, a geologist. It would vary, usually based on whatever was on TV in a given day, but I had no clue, no direction of what I wanted to do with my life. And as a result, I ended up dropping out of school at 17, halfway through 6th form, much to the disgust of all my teachers. Fail. I then found a way to marry a man I met on the internet, which in 2002 was not the done thing, as most of the people you met online were sketchy, to say the least. Thankfully, we celebrate our 16th wedding anniversary on Tuesday, so that one's worked out okay. There we go, that's better than my birthday. So, as much as it brought a lot of shame to my family, this very well thought out decision I made, you could argue it was a fail, but you know, one that I'm still quite proud of, even though my family and I are still not on the best of terms. Anyway. So I found myself in the valleys of Wales. Any Welshies in here? I knew there was one. Yeah, I knew there was one. So Mountain Ash, in deepest, darkest Rhondda Cannon Taff. And the only work really available at the time, 16, 17 years ago, was childcare. So I enrolled in a childcare course, hoping to turn that into some sort of career. But it didn't take me long to realise that I really didn't even want kids of my own. I'm the least maternal person in the world, and so the last thing I should be doing is making a career out of looking after other people's. Not the best idea. Fail. Right, aren't they cute? I had so much fun searching for cute panda gifts to put in this presentation. So I then bounced around from job to job and wound up back in Peterborough. Probably so that's my hometown. Working at Thomas Cook, working in procurement. Has anyone ever worked in procurement? Isn't it really dull? Really, really dull. Now, that said, I learned a lot in the job. I built some good connections. I got to do some fun stuff, like jump out of a plane for charity. This was great. I also did some less fun stuff, like work out what happens when you hit reply instead of forward on an email about a colleague, and you send it to the colleague instead of to your boss. Wasn't my finest moment. Never done that since, needless to say. But it was also here that my career in PPC began. I got really good with spreadsheets. I love my spreadsheet, even to this day. And I built some connections that this led into my first paid search job. But as it became clear that Thomas Cook would emerge with my travel and redundancy was on the horizon, I did another very well thought out decision and took a job in London, commuting there every day on the train, 2 hours there, 2 hours back. It's a grim journey for not a lot of money. But I really loved my time in London. I learned a lot, progressed, made a lot of really good connections, and eventually Google came knocking. They wanted more people for their travel team. We got partway through the process, and then of course, as that was their policy, they realised I didn't have a degree. Not even A levels, much less a degree. So that was that over. So whoops, lack of education, stay in school, kids. So, being really tired by the commute after 3 years and in pursuit of a better work-life balance, I decided to move to the north. We figured, where can I go and get another job in digital? And the options were Leeds, Manchester or Edinburgh. We'd never visited any of those 3 cities, my husband and myself, and we decided that we liked the sound of Leeds the best. So without knowing anybody, we just packed up and moved to Leeds. I have a history of making sound, well-thought decisions, you'll work out from this. 8.5 years later, we're still there. And anyone who works in Leeds or in digital in the north will realise how tight-knit the community is. It's not a case of 6 degrees of separation, it's more like 2, because you'll know someone and that person knows the person that you're trying to connect with. And this is a really good thing, but it can also be a really good thing if you're a bit Marmite like I am. Some people love me, some people really hate me because I'm quite outspoken, quite direct. I don't put up with much nonsense. And so as a result, I've had good jobs in Leeds and I've had bad jobs. And when I say bad jobs, jobs that ended so badly I was escorted out of the building. Yeah, I never thought I'd work in an agency again, but here we are, and it's okay so far. So, also fail. And it was around this time that I began to doubt the philosophy that I'd had for myself up until this point about being bold. That it's better to take risks and learn from any mistakes I might make than to look back at an opportunity I didn't take and wonder, what if I'd done that? What could have happened? And I really began to doubt if that was the right thing to do. It was also around this time that I realised I am autistic. High-functioning Asperger's, to be specific, but all of a sudden it threw my entire life so far into focus. I suddenly understood the social awkwardness, the lack of friends, the being an easy target for bullies. On the other hand, the being academically gifted, but all of the other things that went along with that, everything suddenly made sense. But it was also a little bit of a shock because my brain, the one thing that I felt I could rely on, suddenly felt faulty. Not made like everybody else's, dysfunctional to an extent, which is not the case, but it's how you feel at the time. So that was probably the biggest fail of all of recent times, to be honest with you. And since that time, I've had to do a lot better at re-evaluating how I interact with the world. Literally everything on a daily basis, how I approach work, how I approach socialising, how I approach events like this that I find really difficult, but hold a lot of value for me professionally and personally. And I've decided that it's really important to start bringing my whole self to work. Partly because it's too tiring not to, particularly emotionally, and any of you who've tried to be a different person at work will know this. And I want to encourage everybody in the room to try and do that because there's so much proof that diverse teams do better. And while we've made huge strides forward in things like gender, there's still a ways to go in age, race, LGBTQIA and neurodiversity, among which I would count myself. If we were all really who we were at work every day rather than trying to hide who we were to fit in, think about what else we could do with that emotional energy. And honestly, if you don't work at a place that you think will value who you really are, you should probably get a new job, to be honest with you. I want people to own their differences. People say great minds think alike, well they don't. Great minds don't all think alike. The best results come from diverse teams. You should be owning those differences, own the perspectives that you have that make you unique, and give you that view on the world that nobody else has. Be yourself. The point I want to emphasise is that there's more than one ladder, there is more than one way to achieve success. We often think that we have to do things a certain way, behave like certain people to get to where they are, and that is simply not true. There is more than one way to have the success that you want, but as part of this, we should also stop comparing ourselves to others. I do this all the time. I'll look at companies that I've left, and women and friends who are still there, and I think, why could they make that work and I couldn't? What is it that's wrong with me? Or I will look at contemporaries in the industry. People, women, I maybe started out at the same time, and I'll think, why do they have that level of success and I don't? Again, I think, what's wrong with me? And that's not the way to approach it. So I want to talk to you for a little bit about the idea of reframing things. Failure in particular, which is what this entire talk is about, because we tend to be scared of failure, but really, something is only a failure if you learn nothing from it. This is something that Thomas Edison talked about when he talked about the creation of the light bulb. He didn't say that he failed, he just found 1,000 ways that didn't work. And I would argue to you that something is only really a failure if you learn nothing from that experience. Anyone who was in the talks in Auditorium 2 in the last session will have seen this quote mentioned about move fast and break things, how that used to be Facebook's mantra. Now it's the less catchy move fast with stable infra, but the intent is the same, that stuff is going to break as you try and learn and move forward, and that's okay. At the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation, they say learn fast, and this emphasises how important failing is to that learning process, because you learn by trying and doing, and failure is going to be a part of that. Quotes from random people on the internet, like Mike Simon: if you're not doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. Probably means you're playing it too safe if nothing ever goes wrong. You should put yourself out there. Be brave, put yourself out of your comfort zone. Dawn and Dimmy had this conversation a couple of weeks ago where they talked about failure and the importance of it, particularly in our industry. Again, not about trying to glamorize it, but to remove the stigma and the fear that people have attached to failure. And if you won't listen to me, listen to Yoda. Whatever your opinions on The Last Jedi, I liked it personally. He's spot on when he says that failure is the greatest teacher. It's okay to change your mind and want to do something different. Also, I totally sing ABBA in my head when I read this. Don't know if that's anybody else. If you don't want a career in the thing you studied at university, that's okay. Most of us are probably not doing careers in the things that we studied. If you're in a job and you decide it's not right for you, that's also okay. None of us would probably be here in digital. It's not something we studied or really got into by purpose. So we should be kinder to ourselves. So I want you to reframe your failures. And the other thing I want you to think about reframing are the things that people say to you. because fear of what people may say to us or how they perceive us is sometimes one of the things that puts us off trying. I heard a great phrase, I think it was on the Tim Ferriss podcast, about never ascribing to malice what can be attributed to ignorance. So never assume people have set out to hurt you, essentially. And I find this gives me a nicer perspective on life, because I think about what might have been going on with someone else when they said something, rather than allowing it to completely kind of destroy me, exacerbate my imposter syndrome in ways that it otherwise would have done. I had a boss who told me I was too young, too blonde, and too female to be promoted to do the job that my boss had been doing when she left, and I'd been doing it for free for 3 months. But this was his response when I asked for the job full time. Maybe he was worried about how if I screwed up it would make him look, how it would reflect on him to the board, and that's fair enough. It was probably also a tiny bit sexist, but you know, there might have been other things going on. This is one of many lovely things that my older sister said to me, that I would never amount to anything. And chances are this wasn't driven by anything that I had said or done. It was probably driven by her own fears and her own insecurities. The women in the room will also know that boob jealousy is a real thing, and there's definitely some of that going on. But ultimately, you can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you react to it. And that leads to a much happier and nicer way to live life. So speaking of happier and nicer ways to live life, we'll talk for a few minutes about building confidence, because without confidence, you are not going to feel comfortable trying and potentially failing. So number one, plan. If you plan, you are naturally going to feel better, because you will know the likelihood of different things happening, you'll naturally feel more prepared, and you'll just have that confidence. So whether you're planning for a client meeting, a presentation, the BrightonSEO stage, planning is going to naturally help you have that confidence. Know your stuff, because planning is only going to take you so far, right? But if you know everything inside out, you know, backwards, forwards, someone can throw a question at you, you won't be fazed. You know you are prepared for every eventuality. Don't be scared. Literally the entire point of this talk about not being scared of failure, but if you try and shrug that off, you'll find that you naturally walk taller with a natural confidence that will carry over into everything that you do. It can be difficult to do that. Fight that self-talk and tell yourself that you're not scared. Be positive. The phrase fake it till you make it is true, and it works for a reason. By telling ourselves something and by convincing our brain that we are a certain way, we naturally start to exhibit that behaviour. Amy Cuddy's did a TED talk on this where she talks about, power posture, how standing in certain poses can change your frame of mind. And by being positive, you'll naturally attract more positive people to you, and together you'll be able to do amazing things. Keep a log. When someone says that you've done a good job, or you feel particularly good about something, write it down. It can be really nice to look at times when you feel low. But on the flip side, if you also are feeling down one day, try and interrogate why. Dig into what those triggers are and what it is that causes you to have these feelings or that drives that imposter syndrome, so that you can work to eradicate it. And be bold. Ask for what you want, put yourself forward, put yourself out there. A word that other people would use in this case is probably assertiveness. I find that has some negative connotations when applied to women. It can do, so I prefer to say boldness. I think it has a much better feeling to it. And also be visible. Whether it's making sure that you take credit for your work or ensuring that other people get given credit for their work, make sure that you are there. Put your hand up in that meeting. Don't be afraid to have a dissenting opinion and to make your voice heard. And by doing that, you'll not only help build your own confidence, but you will build the confidence of others. Because it's really important, I think, for us to also look at what we can do to help other people in this industry. Because none of us got here on our own. We all had help from other people along the way. I love this gift because many women in particular worry that by helping other women up behind them, they run the risk of losing their seat at the table, and that's simply not true. In the long run, it creates more opportunity for all of us. So what I really want everyone to work on doing is figuring out how we can empower and help each other. Because confidence is something that we can build from within, but empowerment is something that has to be given to you by someone else. So while working on your own confidence, think about how you can empower others. And there are so many different ways that we can do that. Even just by being there to listen and offer advice, or to help teach and mentor. There are so many different ways that we can help build that empowerment. Not only in women, but anyone who feels that they're underrepresented or need that little bit of a confidence boost. So my final thought for you, it's from one of my favourite films, Almost Famous. I don't know if there are any other Almost Famous fans in the room. It's not this quote, although this one is quite good. Or this quote, probably the greatest movie of the film. It's this one, where she talks to Russell about being bold, how if you are bold, mighty forces will come to your aid. And despite all the times that I have tried and failed, I actually believe this more than ever now. I believe that personal philosophy that I had, despite the times that it felt very hard to do so. I want you to do the scary thing. I want you to do it even if you're worried about not succeeding the first time, because even if you fail, you will learn so much, and you can then take that onto your future attempts and future opportunities. I have this print hanging in my studio at home. I'll read to you what it says here. It says, use what talents you possess. The woods would be very silent if no birds sang except those that sang best. What it tells me is you don't have to be the best at something for it to be worth doing. So you shouldn't let that put you off trying and fear that you're not going to be the best at a thing. That's okay. That's really okay. And the point I want to leave you all with is that by doing this, you will show that women are brave, that we all are brave, and that failure isn't something to be scared of. It's actually something to be cherished and something to be learned from. Thank you.